Hey, you guys, this is Tired Goth, and you are tuned into the Academia Gothica Tired Goth Reacts. Oh, no, you're not. I've been recording so many of these shows, I almost forgot what show I was doing. Welcome back. Everyone, this is the Academia Gothica official podcast, season 12, episode 1. For those of you who mixed. Okay, so someone could be mixing drinks as I'm talking about this. I don't know. I'm like downloading weird shit right now. Some of you may have missed the last podcast drop because I didn't actually upload it to YouTube. It happened on Mother's Day. And for those of you who weren't present for the Mother's Day fiasco, I had a beer, and I was wearing a bear sweatshirt, like a bear hoodie, with like little bear ears on it on the hood thing. And I just did not know what to talk about because it was an episode that talked about like the significance of people minding their own business, and the episode was so short, like shorter than it usually is, because usually my podcasts ranged anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes per episode. I would do, like brief blurbs. I had a mini soda kind of side project thing I was doing for stuff that didn't revolve around society, technology, or anything like that. Just like brief updates and things. And I didn't really know how else to convey how I was feeling aside from just telling people, silence is golden and minding your business ends up being crucial impact to certain situations in the case that it's not hurting anyone. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, if you're in a position, I keep forgetting to change the titles of these things. So if you're in a position where, you're dealing with other people and you're kind of just dealing with yourself, your presence, and how you handle yourself. Because remember, you can't handle how other people conduct themselves. You can only handle how you conduct yourself. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to mind your business, especially if you're being provoked. If you have a history of being provoked, that's one of the things you want to do. You don't want to go jumping into every single situation that sounds like it could be calling your name. This is different from an intuitive nudge, and we'll get into that as well. Intuitive nudges are things that come from yourself that guide you to places you're meant to be, where an invocation, which is someone who's trying to drag you energetically into a position of receiving something from them or otherwise being present for something, is way different. It's someone manipulating your attention towards something. So this is important to pay attention to, because what you really want to focus on when you're focusing your attention is what the necessity of your attention being there serves for yourself or another person, right? While it sounds selfish, if you give your attention to every single thing that's calling it, you're going to be dragged all over the place energetically. It's going to look like you have ADHD. It's going to look like you have conditions that, don't maintain structure, grounding, or anything significant to, your sense of self. And it's important to have a sense of self when you're making decisions, because while people actively try to rob that from ourselves and other people to maintain control, it's not their delegation. It's not their portion to control how you think and feel. It's very easy for people to fall into pitfalls and pit traps like that with respect to their attention, especially if they're afraid, right? So this is one of the things I'm going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the impact of fear on the psychic decision to self-sabotage oneself, to self-sabotage. So this is important because when a person is afraid, they don't feel like they can actually decide. They're letting the fear of what will happen to them decide for them. This is something that you've probably heard before. I know I'm not the only voice that has ever told this to you, but this could be a confirmation for you and something you need to hear today. Your fear is not a guide. Your fear is a barrier. So the same way that we have traffic barriers that prevent cars from flying off the side of a cliff that a road has been carved into, we have barriers. But do we need to have barriers on our heart's desires, is my question, right? When you're truly following your heart and you're doing something that you love to do and you're doing something that matters to you, your passion will reap your effective rewards. So to keep someone in fear is actually to thwart their abundance, to thwart their happiness, to thwart their sense of assurance in themselves. It's sort of like if you're standing on your own 2 feet, right? You're supporting your entire trunk of your body with your legs, your feet, everything. And you're standing tall, you're doing what you do, you're walking, you're free to roam around. And someone in the background insists that they have to kick you in your shins until you fall over. That is what fear-based mentalities are doing. They are acting as a kick in the shins to keep you from standing on your feet to do what it is you want to do. So what happens if somebody continues to bruise your shins? You feel like you aren't going to be able to walk very far. Those bruises, over the course of time, hinder your traction, hinder your ability to move from place to place without injury, to make decisive processes to move on your own accord without injury. This needs to be taken seriously as a psychic and sociological kind of thing, because this is a type of inhibition purposefully placed in front of a person's peace. So if you're going to make RICO laws and all sorts of other stuff that impacts your ability to decide, to choose, what it is you want to do, and this isn't being looked at as a spiritual and then a literal crime, there's something to be said about why that could be. Because some people are more easily led to fear than others. People who are defenseless or are not aware of which defenses they are equipped with are easily led to fear, which is where the purposeful lack of education historically was weaponized. Keeping people in the dark of their minds on purpose is a type of sabotage planted very delicately and sometimes very eloquently in front of people, meaning that whatever it is that a person is suffering, they don't have a way out without some guidance. So if you are in a position where you're meant to be guiding someone and you chose to withhold the guidance, then what is your standard for structure? It's abuse. I answered it for you. It's abuse. And I'll tell you how it's abuse. It takes fortitude of integrity to give someone the option to succeed or fail. You can guide them all you like. You can give them honest structure. You can give them favor. You can do all sorts of things. What you cannot do is manipulate someone to do something that they don't see the value in doing. However, what you can do is teach them. The only way to compassionately combat something that is set to create boundaries that don't belong to a person is to educate them. Okay? This is important to know because some people have been put so far into their fear placement and their fear attention that they're afraid to learn. They're afraid of the repercussions of learning. They're afraid to feel stupid, to appear stupid. They're afraid to lose an invisible rank for what they don't know in that moment. You know how I know that? I went through that. So, here's how to crush your fear of feeling stupid. Okay? This could save your life. This could save everything you've ever wanted to do. This could preserve you against all brainwashing ever. You have to realize that the only reason to keep an appearance is to assure that you make it to a better place in your self-confidence. I want you to sit with that for a second. The only reason that you should hold or keep an appearance is to inevitably drop the appearance. I just freed you. I just freed your entire life. Because I just created a separation between what your hippocampus wants to do and what it's going to do inevitably, and the things that you pretend to appease people who you intuitively know will never understand you, so that you're no longer afraid of them. I just identified your enemy for you intuitively so that you can choose what to do with it. Because it is inevitable that you will end up in a position where you yourself are going to get so sick of what you had to do to please other people in power that you become powerful. But did you know you were already powerful? That's why it made you sick. That's why it made you sick to make someone else powerful, because you knew it was your power that you were giving to them. I'd like for every single one of you who ever feel afraid that you're not going to be able to pay your bills, that you're not going to be able to survive or make it through another day, that you're not going to leave a situation that feels like it's choking you by your neck and keeping you there against your will, that you're already free. You're literally already free. Do you know why you're already free? Because you have the power to decide when you accept it. You have the power to decide to accept when you're already free, okay? You have the power to decide what you like, what you do about it, and who gravitates toward you. Just by being yourself, by accepting yourself radically. Crazy as you are, beautiful as you are, whatever freckles, whatever like flaws you feel you have, whatever pockmarks, whatever things people have told you would get in the way of you being appreciated, whatever histories you had that maybe you weren't too proud of. What does that have to do with you now? Do you see how cool you are today? If you don't, why? Whose standard are you living in? Because everyone will try to tell you it's the American dollar standard, but actually what it is your standard of peace. What's your standard of peace? What are you willing to compromise about yourself to create peace for yourself? Don't you know peace is within, right? Peace is you. You are peace. You are your presence of peace. How you choose to show up for your own peace is completely on you, but it is actually the only decision you ever have to make. Isn't that cool? I'm not going to tell you that it's easy to do every day. Thank you for my rose. I'm not going to tell you it's easy to do every day. That would be a bullshit lie, okay? I would be outright fierce for telling you that it's easy to do every day, because some days people really want to challenge it. They want to break you and be like, you think you're bigger than the program? You think you're bigger than the program? Even Kanye said, no one's bigger than the program. But then they'll stop there and they'll expect you to stay there. They don't give you the until you're bigger than the program TM by Kanye West, right? They don't do that. They don't do that. They'll just be like, no, you can't be bigger, but you can. You want to know how? You already are. You can build your program. You can decide what your program looks like based on the things you don't like and develop around them. You can decide what hurt you and say, I don't want this to hurt me anymore, and then it just doesn't hurt you anymore. It's that simple. You know why it's so powerful to know that? Because people have forged their entire lives, futures, and attempts on your life on the basis of you not knowing that ever in your life. They hoped, they prayed, they cursed. They did everything they could to stop you from coming into your own appreciation of self to the point that you could reject them. They tried to secure a victory against your rejection of them in the case that they weren't good enough for you. That's the truth, everyone, that I would like to enlighten you about this universe that we're in, this glorious universe that only God could make us so powerful in, because we serve him. I'm not going to say it doesn't come without things to follow. There are rules. 333, I am booking tarot readings. DM me. Pop over to my page by clicking my icon in the corner and send me a message and let me know, okay? So I just want to preface what I'm about to say with this could be what you consider to be strings attached, but not really. Because what it is you basically find what it is in this universe that has served you and praise it back and say, oh, thank you. So some people err on the side of, you know, finding something that has material value and worshiping that. That's temporary. You can't take it with you. You can enjoy it while you're here. You can kind of flip it around and do whatever what you want with it to bring you gains. But the gains ultimately are to serve the purpose you're meant to be living, not just to brag about and hold on to. So be careful about the materials, because materials are like cake. They're like snacks, right? Send some cake gifts if you're interested in this. So check this out. Your perception of what you hold is very temporary and serves you short-lived. It maybe heightens your dopamine receptors, or, you know, gives you a sense of temporary peace, and that's basically what it is. And anything else from here is just fake. It's fake completely, because it's sort of just like hold on. Did I say that right? I don't know if I said that properly. Everything else about the long-standing attention, I'm trying to say it this way. The long-standing attention to material things is fake. Because ultimately, if you have enough materials around you but no spirit, no spirited interactions, no peace with others, the material possessions start not to hold any value. They just become things to throw away, sort of like your interactions did with you if you don't feed them, right? It's really important to have a spiritual basis for the things that you do and the things that you hold with you. Because if you don't understand that even the things you have can be given to give someone else peace, if not for a season, so that they can provide peace to another with theirs, then it kind of loses its point. It loses its value, you know? And we're in a society where, like, even people who have had secrets to themselves about how they keep themselves looking younger, how they secure material wealth, blah, blah. People are like, so I had all the wealth, but I don't have any friends. I don't have any happiness. This is what they're saying to themselves. Me, I may not, you know, have reached, maybe I haven't been where some of those celebrities have been yet, right? It's a shared experience. We'll all make it there at some point if we try, but maybe I haven't seen some of the things that they've seen specifically, or known some of the things they've known materially specifically yet. But what it really comes down to is, like, I could easily be there, and so could you. But it's about who had the confidence and the self-respect and the realization that the preservation of the self-respect is what makes it so important. Because we have a lot of people trying to tell us that the preservation of our self-respect is what's getting in the way. That's backwards. How can you lift up what is from the earth to the spirit and say, this is in dedication to you, all that I do is for you, and get a negative return on that? Because what it is that people have actually done is try to pull from a realm that is, like, entirely spiritual and say, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this, with no dedicated spirited effort. They think that making the effort to obtain something strictly material is enough of a spirit to have. And that's wrong. That's completely off to me, because, like, I look at it like this, right? If you're in a position where you have the spirit to change people's lives, this is going to have an impact on how they treat each other. You're there to help them. You're here to coach them. You're here to love them, right? You're here to give that assurance to them. This is seen as an annoyance to some people. Do you know why? Do you know why? I'll tell you why. People who get annoyed by your spirit know that theirs is missing from the picture, and they don't know how to get it back from when they got rid of it. When they listened to someone said, oh, you're too enthusiastic. You're too this. You're too that. Who says that? Who gets to be the judge of that? Who gets to be the judge of what you go through every single day when you are the dominion in your own vessel, in your own body? Like, you can't be serious. You cannot be serious. These people, who think they have control over the words, therefore they have control of the spirit. They don't. Not over you. You have control over you. I had somebody tell me, I have a question for you. And I said, what is it? They go, if you, how did they phrase this? They said something really funny to me. They said, if the president told you to do something, would you do it? And I said, no, I wouldn't. Not because I hate my government, but because he's not the one in control. And the guy said, no, but he's the president. Of course he's in control. And I said, no, you're the one in control. And he looked at me like I had said the most outrageous thing that he had ever heard. He said, no, but that's the president. I said, yeah, but you're your president. You're your own president in your body. You're the one who put him there. You're the one in control. And he looked at me and said, no, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, you could say that. You could say that, but like, that is the truth. We cannot control what other people do. We can only control our responses to it. We control what we do about it. And it starts with an education in what is being petitioned for you to do for them. So I would like to pose this to you. Thank you for the follow. Everyone, if you're in here and you like what I'm saying, follow me. I love you. Anyway, so I would like to position this as my posit here. And if you like what I'm saying here and you would like to support me as a creator, I'm accepting Cash App donations. I'm accepting gifts. I'm accepting whatever it is that you would give, because I have a wealth of information. I'm meant to lead, I'm meant to guide, and I'm meant to be successful at this. So, oh look, it's that same Muslim guy that I blocked already because this one thinks I'm gonna be a human sacrifice. Anyway, goodbye, loser. So, basically, thank you for my love you so much. Thank you. I love you too. So, you see how that works? I get spiritually attacked and then people tell me they love me. I like that. So, it's the second one in today. They're terrified because I'm reading them to filth today about their fucking crime rings and their stolen money shit. Anyway, so with the crying emoji, I can't. So, basically, I'd like to position it this way, right? What you have in the way of a spirit of knowledge of your success is how it manifests. And people will do anything they can to drag you to a place where you forget that. How about that, right? Can you imagine? They have to try so hard. Tap that screen if you support this. I want to see a flood of hearts all the way up to the top of the screen. Everybody tap that screen for me. If you remember that you're meant to be successful and you are, and everything that ever told you you're not supposed to be successful is crap, it's bullshit, you already won. Congratulations. I'm going to be the one to congratulate you. You already won. You already won. Nobody can tell you otherwise. And as long as you know that, you're going to meet the greatest opposition. And you got to be ready for them. You got to be ready for the fact that somebody is going to be like there in the background, as I said before, trying to kick your shins so you can't keep walking because you just found out how to walk without them. Okay? I need you to know that. I need you to know that. And I need you to walk forward today with that knowledge and also your highest intentions in your purpose for that knowledge. Because I'm not saying this to you to become the little prince. Okay? If you've ever read The Prince, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the person who has all the power and just flings it around because you just can. Because that's how we ended up here in the first place. We need to be directional, purposeful with what it is that we know and what it is that we do. For good. We have to realize that when we know this, it comes with an equal weight and responsibility, and that our voices, our hearts, and our preservation of our morals becomes integral. No compromises. If not, to preserve what is already at peace. Okay? So here's the thing. We have to act like we already have a perfect world. We have to envision it. what would it look like to us? A lot of people have different concepts, different structural concepts of what a perfect world looks like, based on what it is that moved them in their souls over the course of time. Can these be integrated? It's possible. It's possible. No one is saying it can't. However, what would it cost us to integrate good and evil? Can we afford a mediocre sum at the end of that equation, at the end of that formula? Can we afford mediocrity now, when all we have are tools that are based in what we learned so far? We have to excel, right? Which is why I'm bringing up the facet of education. Not everybody has to go to school to be educated, but in order for a person to be properly educated, they have to be well-rounded. Meaning, if you have a brilliant talent, but you don't have the words to convey it, who's at a loss? If you have a brilliant talent in math, but your communication stops people from appreciating you and how brilliant you are, who does that rob at the end of the day? That robs you. It robs other people who would love to know how smart and important you are. We are an integrated fabric, learning how to integrate. We were all like put in the same set of the quilt, is what I'm saying at the beginning of this, but as individual patches. And where it went from there is the fact that we all needed to learn all of the things we had to be in order to figure out who we were supposed to be patched with. Because it's not like we're supposed to sew ourselves together. We're supposed to Velcro together. We're not supposed to stay in the same place our whole lives. Maybe not literally. Some of us have lived in one place our entire lives, and that's just fine. But what I'm saying to you is we're not meant to be stuck as ourselves in one template for our entire lives. We're supposed to grow and integrate. We're supposed to make adjustments here. We're supposed to adjust because it makes room and shows love to new experiences. Now, a lot of people say make room for the new, right? In order to make room for something that's new, you have to let go of things that no longer make sense to you. I'll give you an example. And I'm speaking to a few people in life that I know will resonate with this. People who have experienced outdated views from their parents. They could be healthy views for them. They could be unhealthy for you. They could have been healthy for the context. We get this a lot in situations where people are coming from families who survived wars and poverty overseas, and they carry those poverty mindsets of how to make money, which are illegal in other countries, to another country to start a new life with the same crime, right? And we're not just talking about like, oh, you know, I stole this or whatever. We're talking about people who are trafficking people for money. Like real slave hours is the problem, okay? People who still believe in slavery, through sex, through labor, through anything like that, without rights to advocate for oneself. Me personally, I don't even feel like arranged marriages are 100% okay. I know a few people that I've met in my life who have been like, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah, but you treated it like a business. While marriage has facets that are business-like, marriage isn't a business. You have to take it as seriously in some cases as you would your own business, your own brand, your own presentation of self. Sure, but it's not a business. You're not loving that person for money. You're loving that person because you appreciate how they treat you. You're respecting that person because they respect you. They give you what you need to be a person, and you provide the same for them. So it's a lot more than a business. It can have a structure like a business. It could have scheduling like a business. It could have tasks like a business, but marriage is not a business. And a lot of people still have the mentality that it is. That's the problem. So when a person has children and they say, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't feed anyone in the house. And their alternative in their ancestral preference, because they're not in touch with the new of their life, they're going back to things like trafficking their own child for money, selling them for drugs, selling them for anything. You never sell a child, first of all. You never sell a person. People who think they have control over themselves as a commodity should not even be thinking that way. Because your vessel is not a business. Your ideas are, your concepts are. So if you come up with I'm not going to censor myself here. If you come up with a dumb as fuck idea to traffic your child so that you could put food on your table, you are poor as fuck, and you will stay that way forever because your ideas are trash. Your ideas are not profitable. You cannot feed yourself with that forever. It's not profitable. It's not steak worthy. Okay? So this is what I'd like to say as the person who is delivering this podcast to you today. It comes down to how valuable your ideas are to the public. I said it, to everyone. Not just you, not just who you're afraid of not being able to feed, not just your circumstances, the world. What is your contribution to the world? Right? So here we go. We get into the issues here. Not just the contexts, the issues. Because anyone could be saying that they have a handle on how to create peace in the world. Anyone can say, oh, I never owed money to anybody. Yeah, but what did you do to pay those debts? And what did you lose in the process? Because I can tell you, if you lost your soul in a transaction, you're not getting that back. For what you thought was a bright idea that ruined someone else's life, that's not profit, and that's certainly not God's reward for you. Right? So this tangent here is going to circle back to the original point. The value of yourself and what you're willing to tolerate in exchange for your peace comes from you. And the sooner you realize that this is what, in fact, it comes down to, you will realize that you are at peace without those people teaching you. Your new mindset comes from realizing an attitude that is dated in poverty needs to stay in poverty. And you are free to explore everything else. Everything. Literally everything and anything. And that's a big deal because the responsibility of that then falls on you to come up with creativity that harms nothing. To act in direct contrary behavior against what it is that actually challenged your ability to grow into a spiritual beast, a god. That's what you deserve to be on this earth. But you know why a lot of people aren't allowed to reach any comprehension of their god status? It's because we wouldn't listen to each other. This is arguably the most based thing I've ever said. If we were all God, why would we feel compelled to listen to one another when we all thought we had it going on? That's where faith comes in to tie us back together. Final form anything is still not really a final form, because final form anything is actually solitude. And what good is solitude? What good is the wisdom of solitude? I'll phrase it this way. What good is the wisdom of solitude if it isn't shared? When a person reaches the elegance of godlike comprehension of the human condition, of the self, of all that is, and they want to be alone in their final form of evolution, there are people who are still going to petition them for help. Their response could change everything. So this is where I'm going to tie in another thing here. Respect your elders. They may not make sense at all to you until they do. And when you don't know what day that's going to be, you better realize there will be a day. Because what you outgrew on that whole journey where you left everything behind, when you trashed all the old ideas, you're going to realize the only reason those ideas were present for a season was to remind you that evolution can always circle back around to the same kind of struggle. And that struggle, that choice to repeat it, then falls on you based on what you learned and why you didn't like it. That's important. It's very important. So, while I mistitled this for this particular TikTok live, this is the Academia Gothica official podcast. I'm very grateful that you all showed up. If you missed the show, sorry, you can catch the replay on youtube.com/@tired, TIREDG0THOX. And you will check out all of what was presented here for yourself. Like, share, and subscribe over there if you're interested. And make sure you pop in and send me a follow for the work I just did. I'd be super grateful to make your acquaintance. I'm very grateful that you all showed up. I'd like to pull a random card just to align with the title here. A victorious return, everyone. I'm back. Love you guys. Check out episode 2 next week. Closer to Wednesday. I did a Sunday schedule for a bit here. I may actually switch it to Wednesday. We'll see what goes on. And I will catch you all later. Thanks so much for tuning in. So long. Bye.